Give
Kristen,
me a break.
What do you mean give me a break? Kristen Walker this week.
It's Kristen.
Caitlin Walker,
I'm
Caitlin
sorry.
Collins last
I've
week.
worked with Kristen when I worked at the White House.
What do you give me a break?
Say
Have
that
you
you're
no
going up
shame
against
as a woman that we hear him call them ugly and piggy and crooked and liars and stupid and bad journalists? Have you absolutely no solidarity with women? Oh my God, I can't believe you sit here and tell me to give you a break. But in this network, we hear him tell our journalists that she's not fit to be a journalist because she doesn't smile.
Guys, MAGA pundits are having a really hard time defending Trump's colossal F-ups. Last night on Abby Phillip's show, progressive journalists Charles Blow and Anna Navarro absolutely wrecked the MAGA pundit Lydia Moynihan when she tried to portray Trump as a victim. Guys, one thing is pretty damn clear right now. Donald Trump knows his days in politics is about to be over. He knows the moment he loses the midterms, he's going to get impeached, and that would mark the end of his political career. And that's the reason he's acting like a crybaby these days. Now I'm going to play some clips from the show. I'll give my opinion as we go.
President Trump's monumental meltdown. Tonight, the walls appear to be closing in on the president. His war in Iran is as unpopular as ever as it stretches into its 100th day. Americans are worried about their finances more than ever before, and he's suffered a series of legal losses that are throwing his priorities for a loop. And his own party is now fiercely pushing back on some of his agenda. It all comes to a head during this interview with NBC's Kristen Welker on Meet the Press this weekend. Welker pressed Trump on a number of conspiracy theories, first about January 6th rioters, then the lie that California's election is rigged. But instead of responding with evidence or proof of any kind, Trump resorted to insults and smears before he stormed off altogether.
You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I
you've
got
never
that? Because you have no credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about, I want to talk about Todd
You
Blanche.
have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk about...
Your elections in this country, we're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC, and CBS, and CNN.
But, Mr. President...
You're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits, because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
One of the most revealing things about that exchange is that she kept asking for proof. There was no proof being put on the table. And when the president attacks the media, calling them biased, it's usually because they're correcting him on some very obvious falsehoods, like the ones that he tried to repeat in that interview. Charles?
Like, the president wants to say this. You have to let me lie without interrupting me. You have to let me lie and not push back on it. And if you don't give me that kind of coverage, then I do not like the media. And the other thing that the president does is that he substitutes himself for the country all the time. I think people really have to really be careful when they listen to him, because that's an authoritarian thing. When he says that they are the enemy of the country, he really means that they are the enemy of me because they won't let me lie. When he says that people are attacking the country, he really means that they are attacking him. The substitution is a very real thing that happens with Donald Trump in the way that he communicates. And I think everybody needs to pay attention to that.
Why can't Trump take corrections, tough questions? Why can't he put proof on the table of his assertions?
Well, I think you watch the president more than anybody, and I hope everybody at this table would be honest about the fact that the president of the United States takes more tough questions on a daily basis than just about any other president in the modern era. Certainly the last one that we had. Oh, no, I think he should do this two to three times a week. This was a great interview.
Storm out of interviews?
Oh, no, absolutely, because the president's base and most of the country still views the mainstream media as very biased against them. They feel very demonized by the media. They feel very misunderstood by the media. They don't feel like the mainstream media has done enough.
That wasn't the question I asked. Why won't he present
to try to
actual proof of the thing that he's claiming?
Can I talk about that? Because that's always the comeback. Where's the evidence?
Yeah, because
the evidence is this.
If you're going to claim fraud, there should be some evidence.
Okay. The evidence is this. Enables fraud to happen easily. You don't have voter ID. You have mass mail-out ballots. You have
That's
voter
not,
harvest.
that's not evidence.
That's not speculation is also not proof.
Hold on just one second, because I just want
infuriating to watch people try to make speculation into proof.
We are going to spend
It's not speculation, that's data.
Segment.
That is not data.
We're going to spend a whole
That is
segment
not
on the
data.
California race in just a moment. So we're going to talk through some of the stuff that you're talking about there. But I actually think that we can boil it down much more simply than this. Trump falsely believes that he won the 2020 election that he lost. When he is challenged on that, he gets upset and he storms out of an interview. Explain that one.
They were talking about the mayoral race in California, and he was talking about the fraud there, the rigged election there.
Okay.
That's what they were talking
It's rigged? You believe it's rigged?
I do believe it's rigged.
Oh, my God. We can wrap the show up there.
100% rigged.
We can wrap the
In
show
that
up there.
exchange, he also was talking about his favorite obsession, which is 2020.
What's that?
In that exchange, he also was talking about the election that he lost in 2020.
Guys, they aren't trying to litigate election fraud in the courts because there isn't any evidence, and they've already lost something like 70 times. Right now, they're just trying to win blind social acceptance that there was most likely fraud, and to be honest, this strategy is actually working on Republican voters. They're pretty much convinced that election fraud happened. This entire strategy is staged by Trump and his cronies to serve as plausible enough justification for whatever bullshit gets pulled in November. They're just repeating this stuff loudly and over so they can say Democrats are committing fraud and then put troops at election sites and intimidate voters that invalidate election results. That's what's going on right now.
Well, he talked about
that,
the 95%. He also got mad because he has 94%.
What's the explanation for that?
95% negative press coverage. He's sitting there in a negative press interview.
What does press conference have to do with the fact that she asked for proof of fraud?
Here's the thing about the president. When he was candidate Trump and they had the primary and he lost to Ted Cruz, the first thing he said was it was rigged. And he insisted that the state officials change the actual results of that primary. You remember that. And Ted Cruz was very upset by that because he called Ted Cruz a liar. That was what, 10 years ago. So to characterize this conversation without an understanding of who he has been, I think is unfair to the conversation we're supposed to be having now. He's always done this.
Caroline also suggested that Trump loves taking tough questions, but here is his very real history of not taking tough questions that he doesn't like. Listen.
Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions?
Are you?
That's no way to talk. It's no way to talk. I think we have enough of an interview here, Hope. Okay, that's enough. Let's go. Let's go.
The only way it's not going to happen again is you have to solve the problem of the presidential rigged election of 2020.
Mr. President, if I'm... Wait, one more question.
The woman that you said was a great doctor in that video that you retweeted last night said that masks don't work and there is a cure for COVID-19, both of which health experts say is not true. She's also made videos saying that doctors make medicine using DNA from aliens and that they're trying to create a vaccine to make you immune from becoming religious.
Well, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not.
Last week, well, real quick.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Listen, okay, hold on, because I haven't spoken. There's two different things that I think need to be addressed in the clip that we saw from the Meet the Press interview. The first is him alleging that he didn't lose the 2020 election. Trump and his team filed over 60 challenges in court and lost every single one of them. So there is no evidence that held up in court. That's number one issue. The second issue, which to me is just as horrible and needs to be discussed, is his consistent berating and insulting and ad hominem attacks, particularly against women. Whether it's
Give
Kristen,
me a break.
What do you mean give me a break? Kristen Walker this week.
It's Kristen.
Caitlin Walker,
I'm
Caitlin
sorry.
Collins last
I've
week.
worked with
the
Kristen when I worked at the White House.
Will you give me a break?
Have
you no shame as a woman that we hear him call them ugly and piggy and crooked and liars and stupid and bad journalists? Have you absolutely no solidarity with women? Oh my God, I can't believe you sit here and tell me to give you a break. But in this network, we hear him tell our journalists that she's not fit to be a journalist because she doesn't smile. How dare you tell me to give you a break? Have some shame.
Why would the president tell a woman that she doesn't smile enough when she's working, asking him a question?
Because he's an equal opportunity offender, and let's not pretend. Let me explain how the game.
Give me another example of him.
Let me explain how the game works.
Give me an example of him being equal opportunity.
Let me explain how the game works, because Caitlin got something out of that exchange too. The president gets a lot out of having combative exchanges with journalists. His base loves it. That's why I said he should do 2 to 3 more of these a week. His poll numbers go up. But Caitlin's getting something out of it too. So many journalists have made their careers in this country off of being combative with President Trump, Caitlin Collins included, Jim Acosta, many former people. It is all part of the game. It is all part of the theater. She's tough. She can
Why is it a game
But
to
the
you?
fact that you guys are going to call this a woman problem, Kristen did one of the toughest interviews I have seen someone do with the president up to date.
And he walked up
she
and
deserves
left
credit
because
for that.
he couldn't
But
take it.
He didn't push back.
She
She's
flew
a
all
woman.
the way to
He just pushed
Wisconsin,
back. It was tough questions.
went to do her job. No, the guy needs to grow up. He's the president of the United States. He needs to grow up, and instead of walking out, having
How many interviews did Biden do? How many interviews did Biden do?
And how much did you criticize him? Okay, Biden is back in the White House. We can discuss it.
The Biden is like a reflex.
Separate conversation.
It's the truth.
Then just
So the 2020 election.
Biden, blah, 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 Biden.
Guys,
Blah, blah,
one
blah,
at a time,
Biden.
please. Elsie, you were making a point.
Look, I get it. You want the president to look good.
I get it. You want to talk about 2020. I'm bringing up Biden.
I actually brought up 2015 when he started beginning the lies about talking about how elections have been stolen. I was just letting you know there's a pattern here that's been 2 years long. That's why I brought that up. But to the point I'm trying to say right now is that what do you want this nation to gravitate towards? The behavior that we've seen in which you berate women, or behavior in which you learn how to negotiate with someone that you don't agree with, but you don't need to yell or get up and leave it at an interview.
So one way that you'll berate women, because apparently it's good for your image.
I hear you pushing back on LZ and Anna and suggesting that maybe this is somehow about Joe Biden, which it's not. Are you comfortable with Trump being challenged on something and rather than defending his point, just simply storming off of an interview?
He did defend his point. She kept on and on with the same question.
How did he defend it?
What did he defend?
He said that he thought the election was rigged. He answered the question.
And she asked for proof, and he provided what?
It goes back. He talks about what I just said. If you look at the whole election system
what you said didn't make any sense.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
And
it's not a fact.
I just want to be clear.
It is a fact.
I just want to be clear.
Guys, I think the lady who was interviewing Trump should get an award or something. He didn't get any softballs like he normally gets from his favorite channel, Fox News. She asked the questions that actually mattered, questions that ordinary Americans want answered. That's why he left the interview early. He knew that the interview was going to get tough as it progressed, and he had no real satisfactory answers. That's why he escaped. Again, kudos to that lady. Guys, I think this is exactly how Trump should be treated. When he lies, everyone in the room should call him a liar. When he insults people, everyone in the room should tell him he's emotionally unfit for the office. In other words, don't mince words with a wannabe tyrant. If everyone stands up, he'll back down. He always does. And guys, the truly amazing part, there is still a huge population of hardcore MAGA morons that actually think he won the argument and made her look foolish. I mean, these people live in their own realities in which Trump always wins.
We are going to tackle what you were saying about California because there is no proof of what you're saying about California. But in this particular segment, I want to deal with the long-running Trump obsession, which he also brought up in that interview, with his loss in 2020, which he has now tasked the government with trying to validate, even though there's no proof of it. Why is it that when he is challenged on that, he can't answer for it?
Look, we know after the fact, we know there were problems in Arizona. We know there were problems in Georgia. We know after investigation.
What were they?
You can't prove that in 45 days.
What were they, Hal? It's been 6 years.
What were they?
What were the problems?
There were problems with the voters in Georgia. They found voters that were voters.
There was no problem in Arizona.
How many fraudulent votes were cast in Georgia? Because I live in Georgia. I want to get you live.
And I lived in Arizona.
That's a lot. Okay, first of all,
I lived in
we can't have this conversation. We can't have this conversation. This man just said that there were thousands of
The more you guys yell there's no fraud, the more likely there was fraud.
No, the more that you lie, the more we're going to puch back on the fact that you are lying.
81 million votes.
The Heritage Foundation keeps the largest database on voter fraud.
This is so ridiculous. I want to walk off this.
I'm going to finish this point. They keep 30 years. They've tracked 32 elections, 100 million votes. They have found 39 total two cases
That's so
of
absurd.
voter
It's
fraud.
so absurd. That's
So the Heritage Foundation is
where's your
absurd.
proof?
Where's your proof?
Where's your proof?
I just cited my source. What is your source?
I got a question for you.
I just cited, no, because I don't want
Wait,
to.
hold on,
I want to know what your source
hold on,
is.
Hal. You said
What
it's
is your
absurd.
source?
Why is it
Mine
absurd?
is the
Here's why
Heritage
it's
Foundation.
absurd. Do you think there's no H-1B visa
Where is
fraud?
your source?
Do you think there's no Medicare fraud?
You don't have
Do you think there's no home health care fraud? Can you let me finish?
You are not saying a source.
Guys.
You are not saying a source.
There's fraud all over the
Where is
federal
your
government.
source?
There's fraud all over the states. From
Where is
federal
your
funding.
source?
And yet there's no voter fraud? Are you kidding me?
The idea that you're sitting here trying to convince
there
us
Medicare
based
fraud or
on
not?
no source whatsoever
Is there Medicare fraud?
to trust your word
Unbelievable.
and trust the president's word when we know he is lying. And I want to know if you think that was the real. I don't know if we're sitting here with two election deniers.
Just a second.
Do you think it's rigged as well?
Tell me there's no fraud in anything. Medicare, Medicaid, H-1B visas, nothing.
You have no source, and you're going to get louder and louder, and it's still not going to work.
California won't allow the federal government to
Louder and louder, and it's still not going to work because you don't have a single source for your whole body.
Stop talking. Guys, stop talking. Because y'all are talking so loud. But to be honest, Hal, you're not saying anything of substance.
Okay, I think I am.
In this conversation.
No, you're
See what the viewers think.
The president has agreed.
Caroline,
to do a second
they won't let the federal
interview.
government even audit their
hold on a
rolls.
second. Caroline wants
can
to
we
have
get a
a
source?
quick word, and then we're going to go to a
By the
break.
way, I would just add, the president has agreed to do a second interview with Kristen Welker,
girl,
which doesn't
please.
We want
surprise
to know
me
if you're an
at
election
all.
denier.
So Kristen will have her own time to,
That'll
I'm
stop
sure,
for that.
ask him for further evidence.
ma'am.
It's like you've been upset about his
Ma'am.
running up.
We are
You're
gonna
going to
wrap
the
this
second
up.
one, way more than Biden ever
We're going to
did.
leave that right there. Next for us, the president and MAGA are
All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I'll see you again tomorrow with another one.